All right, welcome back to another episode of the podcast.
You mean the podcast?
The podcast. We're just going to blame it on it's a little early.
It is early. I mean, got my Folgers, so I'm good to go.
Oh, yeah. And so we've been talking about... That was my watch.
Oh.
We've been talking about different parts of China recently. I guess not too many different, but we talked about the elixir of life. We've talked about Greek mythology. We talked about different things in Rome. But one thing we haven't really hit on is that one spot, that like architectural, not feat, but creation and the power that an emperor might have. Because when we look at episode 13, lucky number 13, we are moving into the city, the forbidden city located in Beijing. And so when we bring back that, boy, you were actually there, weren't you?
When it was built?
Oh, I don't think you're that old, but you were around for a while.
Yeah, I've been to the Forbidden City. It's wild, you know. It's like larger than the city of Craig, and it's just like right smack dab in the middle of Beijing. And Beijing is like set up kind of in like circles, and it just keeps on expanding as a city now, and it's like over 26 million now, which that's a pretty high population.
Yeah, so Beijing, that's a pretty famous city. Paris, London, Rome, Barcelona, New York City, Los Angeles, Las Vegas. So we're talking about some famous cities. Each of them have pretty high populations, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to know the exact numbers, but
Okay.
What I'm alluding to is the population of the Forbidden City, even though it's bigger than the city of Craig, is actually really, really small, isn't it?
Well, I guess I don't know where you're going with this. Are you talking about how it's just meant for the emperor, or the royal family?
Yeah, it's like literally, you take a giant
I gotta
chunk.
move this because every time I'm looking at you, I'm looking directly at the turtle. This is a turtle, according to Hoyt.
Yeah, so this giant area was literally blocked off for one person and his friends and family.
Yeah. Pretty cool, right?
I mean, the power to have that, where you're just like, hey, we're going to take this multiple acre area and it's going to be mine.
Yeah.
All mine.
Lots of acres. I don't even know. I'm not looking at any of the stats or anything. But when I was there, it took a whole day to just walk across the whole city because they take you through gate after gate after gate. I mean, you got the outside gate that you can't see over. Nobody knows what's inside. Like, you really can't see inside unless you get an aerial view. You get through that gate, and you see, like, some cool large buildings, and then you see another gate and wall. And then you get through that gate and wall, and you get through another, you get to another gate and wall. And, yeah, I mean, eventually you get to the center where, like, really nobody's allowed except for the emperor and the empress. And, like, there's even separate areas where the emperor can walk through the gate, and then all the normal people can walk through the gate as well.
Yeah, I was reading that. I didn't fully understand it, but there was, like, the imperial road where only the emperor and the empress sometimes, if she gets special permission or it's her special day, can use this road. I'm like, talk about no traffic. It's this just me on the road. I'm the only one there. Trying to work it out.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get stuff so I'm not, like, you know, tripping on it and strangling myself on accident.
All right. So we kind of talked about the gates. It's surrounded by a giant wall, 26 feet tall, and plus, you can't just have a wall. You got to have a moat as well. So it's about 20 feet deep and 171 feet wide. So those stats are just saying, you know what? He really doesn't want visitors.
Yeah, and that's the outer wall.
Yes,
that's got the moat and everything. I mean, it's just like any other walled city from back in the day. All these cities used to have the large walls and gates, and that's kind of the coolest thing to go see for an ancient city, I think, is the ancient city walls.
Yeah, because that was their idea of protection and their idea of we're going to just be safer back here. In each corner of this city, it was I feel like it was basically a giant rectangle botched off, was a grand tower, very intricate. Did you see those, or was that just Wikipedia and my sources lying to me?
I was kind of looking at the fake snow down here. Sorry. Towers.
Yeah, like those grand towers. They're in the corners.
I don't know what you're talking about. There are some huge towers, but I don't even remember what they're called or what their purpose was. But they're probably lookout towers.
Look, that's exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was kind of reading too. Is you have it in each spot, each kind of idea of, hey, we've got the emperor's back on this side. You got it over there. Just kind of that protection that, hey, we're going to be okay. And then on each side of the walled city are the 4 gates. Each one of the gates has a 9x9 a golden nail square on the door, except for the east, which only has 8 rows instead of 9. So, little symbolism with the 9x9 nails on the doors. You have the Meridian Gate, so that's the main gate to the south. You have the Gate of the Divine Might to the north, and then you have the Glorious Gates of the east and the Glorious Gate of the west. So they kind of just have those 4 different gates to kind of allow people in if the emperor allowed it, let the emperor leave, come and go as he pleases, let his court move about the city and that stuff.
And I think the Meridian Gate is the gate that I went through. They keep all the traffic going the same direction because they just got thousands of people going through there all the time. So they keep you all going the same way. And I'll bet the Meridian Gate, when you called it the main gate,
yeah,
I'll bet that is where people came through. They have like a very particular way of organizing and doing things, so that they probably have kept that the same.
Yeah, that's definitely, from my understanding too, from the pictures I looked at, that's the cool looking gate. Really detailed, really intricate. So being the main gate makes sense. That's where you're going to funnel the people in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you talked about the inner and outer court as well. So they had 2 kind of sections of this Forbidden City as well. The inner court is like the back part where the emperor lived. It was kind of his place. It was more secluded than the outer court, the outer part. The outer part, or outer court, or that front part, was the ceremonial area. So it was kind of like that area where you would have the ceremonies, or as time went on, the pictures, the meetings, all that stuff to really showcase the emperor's power or just the beauty of what the city had at the time.
Yeah, and these areas that Langel's talking about are huge open areas inside the city where, there could be a ceremony and there could be thousands of troops kind of all staged, to pay their respects or whatever they're doing.
Yeah, and it's full of like palaces, each one having their own meaning, each one being very grand, each one, I'm guessing, extremely expensive too.
Yeah, all these palaces are kind of open to the public now as museums, but as you're going through, sometimes you can kind of walk through, but most of the time you're just kind of looking past the ropes and kind of seeing what it's like inside. And you can kind of picture the typical Asian architecture, unique with kind of the arched roofs, kind of opposite of some of the domes that we've seen in other civilizations.
Yeah, and the material used was pretty nice as well. You had large chunks of marble, large major hallways had golden bricks, so it was especially made bricks to look like they were made out of gold. You had this very special wood that they would find using entire logs of it to just really put the intricate details into this city, into the palaces, to really make it worth the emperor's time. Because you got to think about, this guy had complete control, absolute power, And so he's going to want the best thing possible for him to live in.
Yeah, I suppose so. I was thinking of Nero in his pleasure palace. A little bit different, I suppose.
I mean, yeah, Nero burned down the city to build it. This guy I'm just like, hey, this is mine now. We're building it up. And so the people allowed it. And actually, millions of people helped build it too. Or sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, so this Forbidden City was built in the 1400s, right?
Yep.
There have been several imperial cities in Chinese history, and the capital of China has moved around several times, and most recently it's been Beijing, and that's why the Forbidden City is in Beijing now. But yeah, I don't even know why I was talking about the different palaces at this point.
Well, just to show, one, how old China is. Like, it's moved capitals multiple times, and this one being from like 600 years ago.
Oh, I was going to mention, I can't remember if it was the Song Dynasty or the Tang Dynasty, but one of their imperial cities literally burned down. Lightning struck it, it burnt down, and with the Chinese believing in the mandate of heaven, they're like, maybe this emperor isn't so good after all.
Yeah, that definitely is a sign saying, you know what? If this emperor's city burnt down, the emperor's place, we probably should move on from this leader.
And maybe even move the capital.
Yeah, to a safer spot. But so let's kind of look at the background. We kind of talked about what it looks like, what it was. And this palace district is, let's see here. Hoyt, you're going to have to help me there. It's in the first line under background.
I haven't really been following along full.
No, we've been jumping around.
Palace district.
Yep.
Are you looking for a word here?
Dongcheng.
Oh, Dongcheng.
Dongcheng district in Beijing. When it was constructed, that was back in 1406 to 1420. So about 14 years there, millions of people working on it. And so to really build up an entire city in 14 years for one person, you're going to have a lot of those workers, especially with the 1400 technology and not technology from today. So moving all that marble by probably cart and stuff like that, but still lifting it up by hand, not going to be fun, or at least pulley and all that stuff. So definitely got to have to lift with your knees, not your back on that one. It was used for the emperor from 1420 to 1924. And then in 1987, it becomes a World Heritage Site. So let's kind of start back. What was it used for? It was started off as the emperor's and his household home. So basically, it was for him, for his family members, for the court people that he wanted to be nearby, and they just kind of lived there. They kind of were able to experience life from that area. It was a ceremonial and political center of the empire for about 500 years. If the emperor is the politics of the area, wherever he's at, is probably going to be the center of the political area as well. It was home for 24 different emperors over that span of like 500 years. 24 emperors were able to live there. 14 in the Ming Dynasty and 10 in the, I want to say
Qing.
That was going to be my guess. All right, the Qing Dynasty. But in 1912, China had a little change in direction, and they decided they no longer wanted the emperor being ruler, and they became a kind of like democratic state. And so the emperor no longer had the power, but the emperor, after he abdicated his throne, was allowed to live in the inner court of the city until 1924. So from 1912 to 1924, it was more of a ceremonial thing for the emperor who abdicated to kind of live there and kind of stay there.
And you're seeing more and more emperors and kings and queens abdicating these days, kind of giving up their ceremonial power, just because it is largely ceremonial now. I mean, who really has the power in Japan? You know, maybe an emperor or the prime minister. Who would have had the power in China at that point? You know, now China's under communist government that started with Mao Zedong, you know, like just 20 years basically after the Qing emperor, the last Qing emperor, was kind of kicked out of the palace there.
Yeah, so in 1924, he was kicked out because we're starting to really want the people to experience things. We really want those more freedoms, more ideas to flow that kind of comes with a new government. And in 1925, it becomes like a palace museum, which I'm guessing would be really cool because for 500 years, that was the political center, the ceremonial center. That has a lot of culture, a lot of experiences, probably a lot of things took place in that area.
Absolutely, including Tiananmen Square. Tiananmen Square, Tian stands for like God and the heavens, and An is peace, and Mun is gate. So they kind of like have this huge square where some of you that are closer to my age might remember when people were protesting in Tiananmen Square, and a protester like walked up to a tank and like stood in front of it.
Oh yeah, that famous photo.
And then a bunch of those protesters ended up disappearing, which is kind of, you know, why people kind of get on the case of Chinese government sometimes, because they aren't really held accountable by the people. So sometimes the world's kind of like, hey, you should take better care of your people. But, you know, China says mind your own business.
Yeah. Each country has its own government, has its own system, and they're in charge of their sovereign nation. And so from 1925 to 1987, it's a palace museum. And when the communist government with Mao Zedong took over, they kind of opened up that palace, or opened up the Forbidden City a little more, just trying to show, like, look at us, we're sharing the stuff. It's our city now, not just the emperor's city. So it was a good political move to kind of, hey, look at this.
And they also kind of needed a cool national museum. The old Chinese government had fled to Taiwan and taken all their riches and wealth of historical artifacts and everything with them to Taiwan to put their national museum together, which is in Taiwan today still.
Oh, nice.
Awesome national museum. China, mainland China, is still kind of piecing together their national museum. It includes like a bunch of random gifts from other countries, but not like as many old Chinese artifacts. So I think that Mao had to give like some sort of awesome museum experience to show off Chinese culture, and that was the best way. And the interesting thing today, if you go and visit the Forbidden City, Mao left his legacy there, basically. He put his mausoleum there. Some people call it the Mausoleum.
I like it. No, that's definitely, if you want to be connected with power, connected with longevity, I would say, too. The emperor ruled for many, many years in China. Put your tomb, mausoleum, right there so that you have that, association just by sight, association by talking and all that stuff. So
absolutely.
Another good political power move by him.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 1987, UNESCO, there we go. I always want to say UNICEF, but I know it's not that organization. So, what's it?
UNESCO, World Heritage.
Yeah.
You know, they take care of all these sites that kind of are like they belong to humanity.
Yep.
Historical sites.
So it's an organization. It's international. So now one country's in charge of it. And what they do is they protect land, like Hoyt was saying, that has significance in history, science, culture, all that stuff that really is like, hey, we don't want to lose this. This is a very big significance to this culture, to this state, to this country. Some examples in the United States are Yellowstone, the Statue of Liberty, and the Everglades. So like three things across the United States that when you think of the United States, Yellowstone and Statue of Liberty definitely have to be up there. Mm-hmm. And then Everglades, you always hear about them down in Florida. So it's just that protected land. It's just that idea from UNESCO saying this needs to stay. We
Yeah.
don't want anything to happen to it. We don't want someone to come in, buy it up, and just kind of make it their own private city again.
Or just destroy it, with all the war in the world.
Oh,
too.
yes.
They try to protect these things from, the squabbles that we have in society.
Yeah, that's... Speaking of, like, just protecting the things, ever seen the movie Monuments Men?
No.
Oh, it's a great World War II one where George Clooney, Matt Damon, John Goodman, Bill Murray are all like art historians well past their going to wartime. And so they actually enlist into the war and go and try to protect old paintings, statues, all this like art and culture that Hitler at the time was trying to steal, trying to take and manipulate, or just trying to tell people, hey, don't bomb this part of the city. Don't do we're not going to just fire willy-nilly here because of these different historical sites, historical or cultural artifacts and all that stuff.
Yeah, protect the past.
Yep. Because we can learn a lot from it.
You might be able to.
If you listen carefully. So this one was kind of a short one. During my research, it was just a lot of, you really need to have pictures and sites and that stuff. So that's my kind of challenge to you guys, is really go back in and look at the beautiful, intricate details, the time they put into this, the marble, the golden bricks, the wood, just everything they did to really make this palace worthy of an emperor.
Yeah, and I think it'd be interesting to compare the Imperial City in China or the Forbidden City to other palaces of emperors, if you could. I mean, that might be kind of interesting.
Definitely. It would be really interesting to see what does each emperor, each culture focus on.
I wonder which ones would even be standing.
Ooh.
Because empires are kind of like a thing of the past.
Oh, yeah, they're
now, so.
definitely ancient cities, ancient times.
You tell us.
Yeah, homework. So that's one of my things. Just compare and contrast the different palaces, see what's still out there. Because, like with Nero's palace, they tore that down to kind of like give people something to really kind of like repair the relationship of the emperor and the people. And I can see that happening in a lot of different places where they make this grand palace, and then as years go by, the people are starting to be upset. So they're like, okay, let's pull it back. Let's kind of work together on things and be less in your face about it. So that's kind of it with the Forbidden City.
And this episode, I don't know if it's because it was early or I'm just OCD and I'm just like looking at everything around me. I don't know what's going on. But I kind of want to do some like this or that and playing around.
Yeah, let's have fun.
So I want to like give you a couple random things so I can get to know you, the person, a little better.
All right.
So white bread or wheat bread?
So white bread tastes better, but I'm trying to be healthier. Big quotes there. And so I really don't have a preference. Wheat bread's fine too. I'm going to say, yeah, if you had a loaf of white bread and a loaf of wheat bread, I'll grab the white. But I don't really care. Like, if you have wheat, it's not like, oh my goodness, I can't eat this.
I was a little curious, and I pictured you going wheat.
Yeah.
This next one, I'm not really sure. So you're probably going to be like, what are you talking about? Crunchy or soft?
With peanut butter or?
Tacos.
Soft tacos.
And I mean, I'm going to take this a couple different directions.
Oh, yeah.
First, crunchy or soft?
Oh, soft shell tacos. Soft shell, yeah.
Really? So you're getting like a 12-pack or whatever at...
the flour tortillas.
You're going
corn
soft
tortilla,
shell.
whatever, soft shell.
Interesting.
Like,
I'm a hard shell guy.
See, every time I take a bite of a hard shell, it just all crumbles. And I'm like, I want to eat the whole thing before it just crumbles.
Okay. Crunchy or soft? Skiing, snowboarding.
Ooh, with the snow? Oh, it's gotta be powder. Soft, fluffy snow. When you're going down like the corduroy and the really nice groomers, I like it, but growing up in Iowa, the snowboarding hill, mountain, we can call it, just to sound professional, you rather have slush or a sheet of ice, right? So I don't really like the sheet of ice because that's just, one, hard to turn on. Two, it's just, if you crash, it's gonna hurt. And so I like that nice soft powder, especially going to Steamboat all the time, where it has the what do they call it? Champagne powder, where it's nice, light, fluffy, and when you land, now getting out of powder is a pain and a half, but when you do crash, it's like landing on a cloud. It's like, oh, we're all good.
I'm learning a lot about you, so this is great. American cheese or cheddar cheese? How about for a grilled cheese sandwich?
Oh, I was going to say, what's the sprayed cheese? That's the best kind right there. For a sandwich, I'm going to probably throw in this, that, or option 3 and Swiss. I think Swiss? Provolone. Not a big, cheddar, okay. But I'm not, if I'm buying
grilled cheese?
If I'm buying cheese, whether it's to make grilled cheese or just cheese in general, provolone or pepper jack would be what I'm choosing.
Interesting. American cheese isn't as popular as it once was. I've been, kind of enjoying it a little bit more again. Sometimes it's really good on a grilled cheese or just a cheeseburger. It's different than cheddar cheese or provolone or all the fancy cheeses, but nothing's better than just some plain old American cheese slapped on some bread for a grilled cheese sandwich.
So my problem is I'm too impatient, so I burn the bread and the cheese doesn't melt when I make grilled cheeses. So
I got one word for you, or actually 3 words for you: George Foreman Grill.
Ooh, that would probably make a lot of sense.
Knock out the fat. That was his old, catchphrase. George Foreman Grill. If you don't know who George Foreman was, I got another this or that. George Foreman or Muhammad Ali. That should be an easy one.
Oh, I'm definitely, if I'm watching the two, Ali, but I'm a Tyson.
Oh,
because when you look at boxing, what's the purpose of watching boxing? Watching someone knock out someone else.
Tyson was good at that.
And Tyson just was a pure beast, animal powerhouse.
People were afraid to fight him.
Yeah.
I mean, not because he bit off someone's ear. I mean,
that was later in his career. And the fact that he fought so many fights before he turned 21, and that's crazy to me. Yeah, he had some problems later on, and definitely see him being a better human now is awesome. But that is the fighter I'm going for. It's just because I like the tactical part, Floyd Mayweather. He's very tactical and he's very precision. Each punch has a purpose and is really good with that. But when you see Tyson just kind of perfect dodge and boom, and that guy just drops, you're like, that guy has power.
Xbox or PlayStation? And this will be the last.
This is a big debate. I have an Xbox because it's cheaper and it plays DVDs. While that debate can go on.
You have DVDs still?
Oh yeah, I have VHS still. I still got Disney movies on VHS. I almost prefer watching some of the old videos on VHS just because it takes me back to being a little kid and nostalgic. And then
for all you youngins out there, you don't remember the joy of the tracking dial where it's just okay, there's a lot of white snow in the picture, I gotta adjust the tracking. Oh, the VHS looks good. It's
I don't even know that one.
Crystal clear. No, I mean VHS
that's even before me. But what I love is when you open up the case or open up the VHS drawer, you pick up the movie and it's already rewound. You remembered to do it after you watched the movie. That was so nice. There's been multiple times where I'm just growing up or whatever, where you pick a movie. Oh, not rewound. We're gonna pick a different movie.
Yeah, they actually used to have these special VHS rewinders that you.
My grandma had one of those.
And the only purpose it served was to rewind your movie after you watched it. I mean, it's better than just having the kids, you know.
Oh.
They could literally spin the wheel and do it. Okay, we better get into spelling with Langle.
Spelling with Langle.
This is a really
You've
exciting
been distracting me, so.
I know. I've been
putting
just
me
trying
at
to,
ease.
and I got to resort back to my list here because I got some really good ones for today.
Yeah, we were talking on the way down. I've been doing too well, according to you. I've gotten like 2 or 3.
Well, I'm
Not
going
in
to
a row,
start you out with an easier one. This is a word that we throw around a lot in teaching, and I wanted to highlight this word and use this word because Langle is all about incorporating new teaching skills that he is adding to his teacher toolbox. So the word is pedagogy.
Pedagogy.
Of or relating to style of teaching.
Yep. Pedagogy. It's the end, like, I have the beginning. The connecting, I believe I have it. The end is where I'm kind of like, it doesn't make sense, but I don't know how else I would spell it. Now, I know how maybe other people might.
He's going to get this one right.
So, pedagogy. Pedagogy. Pedagogy.
Oh, so close. One letter off. Pedagogy.
Pedagogy.
OGY.
Okay, I was debating, are there 2 G's in this word?
Yes.
Because it's one of those weird ones where you're like, really?
Could've
You're going to
been
do
a J,
G-O-G?
Yeah.
I knew it was like a J. I just didn't think it would be J-O-J or G-O-G. Jeez. I don't even know how to spell.
G's and J's confused.
G-O-G. I'm like, are you really going to do that in a word? Apparently so. So, pedagogy.
So that was supposed to be the easy one. I mean, you know, in our classes we've seen pedagogy and pedagogical, and yeah, we see that word a lot.
Yeah.
But we don't use it that often. We call it teaching instead.
Yep.
So this next one might be a little tougher, but we've just had our kids working a lot on their own travel agencies in class. They became their own business people, and I think some of them would be very successful. So this word, I love throwing the French words in there, is entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. See, here's the thing with, like, the foreign words or French, like you said, origins French. Not that that's going to help me at all, but, like, they're going to throw random U's in there. Like, when the British spelling of color is C-O-L, like, O-U-R, you're like, where did that U come from? But, all right, whatever. Let's see here. Entrepreneur. Like, I'm all like the simplified version's coming to my head, but not the real version. I think entrepreneur. All right, well,
simplified version. Do you want to spell the simplified version?
Well, the one without the U's and the extra letters that you don't need.
How would you even sound out entrepreneur?
Incorrectly. Entrepreneur. I know it's. Even though it sounds like on, it's E-N, entrepreneur, E-N-T-R-A-P E-N-U-R-E, entrepreneur. It's not even close,
You were only missing 2 letters, and then you kind of mixed a couple letters around. So excellent job. I mean, I maybe
it starts with like a entrepreneur.
I mean, maybe there's an Odell out there that spelled it right away off the top of their heads. But you know, Langle, I wasn't expecting you to be able to pull that off.
Hey,
I have my trick for that one. Yeah, spell
check. knew
You're
what
close
I
enough.
meant.
Yes.
So we're good.
Yes.
That's like they invented spell check for a reason.
Yeah,
So, as
so-
long as it picks it up, we're good.
Spell check is telling him ENTREPRENEUR. So you were very close. Very close.
Yeah, I'll take it. Like I said, throughout all of this, if spell check picks it up, we're good. Because no one can read my handwriting anyway. So I'm not going to handwrite words. I'm going to type things out. And then as I'm typing it out, it's going to say, hey, that word doesn't look right. And I'll be like, I know. We're going to work on it together.
So do you need to find your words of wisdom?
No, I got it right here.
You got it? If you got it right here, one last this or that.
Oh, we got it. We got a little
because
time.
For some reason, I just started thinking about burgers. So I want to ask you, Baconator or double quarter pounder with cheese?
Ooh. Because those are both the two things I always order when I go to those places.
They're solid, both of them. I mean, they're gonna fill you up. They're both kind of greasy enough, you know. The Baconator's got the bacon edge.
So that's the thing, right? The Baconator has the edge with bacon.
There's something about a double quarter pounder of cheese. I don't know if it's the ketchup, the mustard, or those onions.
But
or
yeah,
is it
like
the beef?
beef.
Beef. There might be worms.
I
there.
think-
There might be.
I think I'm gonna go with Baconators just because I prefer
The square patty.
the square. It's different. That's kind of funny. I just kind of prefer the whole flavor of Wendy's a little better. I
Yes.
think not like honestly nothing wrong with McDonald's. I definitely eat there when I can, or not. I'm starting to eat out less, cook more. I love to cook, but still, I gotta go with the Baconator. It's
I
just
was curious.
it has that. Yeah, that bacon puts it over the top, and just the overall flavor. I think it's better.
I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm gonna play. And I love Baconators, but there's something about a double quarter pounder double quarter pounder with cheese, and it might be the American cheese on there. I mean, it's so simple. The double quarter pounder of cheese. It's just the American cheese, the ketchup, the mustard, those that little sprinkling of onions. Excellent. And I just had to know, and I'm ready for these words of wisdom now.
All right. So, when you drive through Iowa, especially during spring and fall time periods, traffic gets a little backed up. I mean, you kind of think about the time period we're in, not the time period, the seasons we're in. So, as the ancient Iowans always say, even we think tractors are slow.